Hello.
Hi.
Let me make sure we are live. 1 second here.
Mm-hmm. I have it like in the other screen also.
Okay.
I believe we're live.
We are. I just checked on my other and I muted so I wouldn't blast people's ears out.
Appreciate it.
Welcome everyone to the Blades and Bodice Book Club for November. I am Mara. You're on my channel, and I picked this month's book, which is Magnus Chase and the Sword of Summer by Riordan.
We all have it.
Right. Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Which is a spin-off series. So like all of Uncle Rick's books are somewhat interconnected. So like if you've read Percy Jackson, Magnus Chase is the cousin of one of the main characters in Percy Jackson. So it is related, but there's not really spoilers in this series, like if you don't have the context for them. So you could read this as just like a standalone.
It's kind of like the Shadowhunters series is
kind of
sure,
where there's like, I mean, they are like series, but like all
in the same
contiguously,
world.
like they are related to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they all exist in the same universe, I guess maybe is the way to put it.
But like there usually be like a family member of a family member from one of the other series that's like now the thing.
Doing stuff.
So I am a well-known lover of Uncle Rick. I really enjoyed this series because it made me laugh. There's an ending scene which we'll have to talk about that literally made me laugh out loud and bumped this book from a 4 to a 4.5 just because any book that can genuinely make me laugh out loud, I feel like deserves some points.
I feel like with books in general, like it's just like laughing at comedy when it's like live is just much more likely to get you to laugh out loud. Like reading it in a book,
it's hard.
I'll often think that a book is like really funny, but I actually never laughed.
Really?
If I actually laugh out loud, I'll be like, okay, that's like properly funny.
I feel like I giggle in books a lot, but
I'll like sit there and be like, oh, tee, like that's funny, but it's not like,
yeah. So I gave this a 4.5 star. Because I would say that it is a favorite of the year that I read it in, either at the end of last year or the beginning of this one. But we've actually not really talked much about our feelings, so we're going into this without context. So maybe we can just, Bethany, you can start. We'll go around and say our overall feelings about it. That makes me think that Bethany did not.
Bethany doesn't want to go first.
Reverse counterclockwise? Like, let's go the other way.
Yeah, I didn't like it very much, unfortunately, and I feel bad because I really wanted to.
Surprises me.
Yeah, we can talk more about it. There's some stuff where like
we can talk more about. That's literally what we're here to do.
What we're here to do. I guess there are like a few things too, and that I'm kind of surprised it was one of your favorite books, but it's interesting. But I think you just really love him a lot, and so so I wasn't a huge fan. I gave it 2 stars.
Oh wow, for Bethany, that is
pretty
bad. That surprises me. That really
are fighting. I
wonder when we talk about things that happen later in the series, if maybe you'll end up. Anyway, we'll talk because I think there are things that come in this series that I'm actually very surprised that you're not more into. But okay, Amanda, how about you?
Mara, again, I think we are book twins because I feel like we're gonna have the exact same opinions. When we have the same opinion, we have the exact same opinion. I've found.
Yes.
We have different opinions. That's a whole other thing. But when we have the same opinion, it's the same opinion. And I feel like this with like a lot of Uncle Rick books where I'm just like, I laugh out loud. It might help that I have an audiobook too. So I feel like someone's talking to me. So it's like normal to laugh out loud.
Yeah.
But I do laugh out. Like it's so stupid. But like the fart elf line, I like cackled. He's like, you're a fart elf? And then even the deaf character's like, fart elf. And I was like, yeah, I know. So do I like Percy Jackson more? Arguably less. Not less. I mean, yes, I just can't speak words. But I think I like the Percy Jackson series better. But I did like this one. It still has all the Uncle Rick charm where like it's very inclusive. There's a deaf character in this book and he's part of the group and no one says anything about it being a disability. It's just he's just different, which is great. And it's funny. And also it kind of talks about homelessness, like youth homelessness, which is like another thing I hadn't really seen in a lot of middle grade books. I don't read a lot of middle grade in general, but I don't think there's a lot about it. So I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I again, I didn't give it a 5, but I gave it like a solid 4.5. It's pretty good. I had a good time with it.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not alone. Lena, let me have it.
I gave it a 2.5 that I rounded it up to a 3. So
okay.
But I probably feel very similarly to Bethany about it.
We're split again.
I feel like there's things about it that like I've seen other things do much worse. So I was like, well, it was better than that. So like I don't like I've complained about other books that do the same thing. For example, Aurora Rising, where it's like non-stop snarkiness and banter. And like this, at least I thought the jokes were pretty good. I just found it exhausting that nothing was ever taken seriously. I was like, I would like this to be like a counterpoint to more poignant, serious moments. But even the moments that felt like, oh, is this about to be like a poignant, and you cracked another joke and we're not taking this seriously either. So like, I just felt exhausted by the like, everything is a joke. And the jokes were funny. I just wanted them to be balanced with like actual serious moments.
That's fair. I mean, I don't really have a counter to that. Like,
well, especially because I mean, like what Amanda just brought up, like the homelessness. I'm like, that's not funny. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I would want that represented a little more seriously. And like, you can have jokes, and you can even have humor be like a coping mechanism that maybe we need to address that is a coping mechanism, and we need to talk about that. And so like, you could use humor to like lighten that up a bit, but like. That he's like killing people. He's homeless. Like there's literally his mom is dead. I was like,
died,
I want
like
that to
nothing
be more
phases
serious.
him ever. I'm like, it's like none of it matters.
I guess. Okay, I guess I would say my counter to that, because I if that's what you wanted from the book, like that's fine. Like that's. But I think
you'll allow it.
No, I just mean like I can't really argue against like if this didn't do something you wanted it to do, like that is true. I think my perspective would be if this was YA versus aimed at, let's say, lower YA to middle grade, I probably would feel that way more. But because it's aimed at, I would say, let's call it 12 to 13-year-olds, I can see why.
Then I also find it strange that Magnus is 16, because he doesn't read like a 16-year-old. I was like, why not just make him 12 or 13?
Yeah.
Because usually you age your characters up a little bit. So books that are aimed at like 9 to 10-year-olds, often the characters will be like 13. So to me, that was just the same.
Well, Percy, he has like a very similar voice to Percy, and Percy was like 12.
So but the other thing here is that Percy's 12 and lives in a house. Magnus is homeless. So I'm thinking a 12-year-old homeless kid is a harder sell than a 16-year-old homeless kid.
That was kind of my.
But see, like that's where again I feel like he should be even more mature for his age, because he's 16 and he's been living on his own on the street. So that ages you up real fast, like that hardship.
So my point though is I hear that, but I think the approach to this book, and actually something I kind of like, is making this kid who is homeless not wholly foreign to, let's call it a 13-year-old who's reading this book. Like this is somebody who's relatable, and this could be someone you know. So to me, what I liked about the approach to homelessness in this was less like othering than I feel like homelessness is often portrayed in books, because I feel like you can read a ton of books, or like if you wanted to look for books about homelessness or featuring homeless characters, ones that have it being super serious, there's plenty of those. So I actually kind of like that this is taking a different approach to connecting with kids about that topic, and showing it not as like, if you see a kid who is homeless, they are like other, they are completely just like it. Do you know what I mean? Am I communicating that well? Like to me, that was his take on the topic.
I feel like
that approach.
I was gonna say, I feel like I know like what you mean, and I think like you can make it still lighter and more like less othering, and still take it slightly more seriously than it did. Because it just, to me, like it was making so light of it and such a joke. I was like, okay, you should take it like a little bit seriously though.
Yeah, I mean that's fair.
I feel like as a whole, this book is like, I like a lot of what it's trying to do. I think the execution just didn't work for me.
Yeah.
You know, like I like the project of the book. I like what you're saying too about like trying to talk about homelessness in youth, because it's a real thing that certainly happens, and there are kids who should feel seen by that. I just like similarly, I think one of the biggest things for me was I was like, how I had a hard time knowing how I was supposed to care about anything that was happening, because it never felt like he never cared about any of it. Like he dies, he kills people, these super violent things happen, his mom is dead, and he's just like, you know, he has the opportunity to be with his mom, and it's not a hard choice. He's just like, nah, no, I like my bros in Valhalla. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know. It's like the tone was so snarky.
That's also why it's not getting a 5 from me, because there was something a little off. I'm giving you that, but
I agree.
I still feel like it's an Uncle Rick book, and I was expecting the kind of humor I got.
Yes.
And it was I went into it expecting this. So maybe that's why I'm just having an easier time swallowing what he's giving me.
And I think because I had finished the Percy Jackson series, I knew that it would go there eventually, which is what happens in Percy Jackson. Like the first 2 books are much lighter, even though, to your point, yes, there are violent things happening. They're treated very lightly. And then by the end of that 5-book series, there's like more weight to it, which is also what happens in this series. Like by the end, there are more stakes and more weight, which I think is just sort of how he approaches structuring series. Now, I will say my critique of this book is that I think it's too long, and there's too many side quests. Like I think probably about 20% of this book should have been culled out, and it would have been a better book. So like from that perspective, I have some issues with it, but like, I think because I knew, if you know what kind of books he writes, like this is very aligned with what he does. And that's fair if it doesn't work. But I actually I thought it was a very ballsy approach. Like to me, when I read this, I was like, oh, you got the idea of like killing your main character, and that's where you worked the book from. Like killing your main character.
In chapter 1.
Exactly. And so like to me, I actually really love that of like, to me, that is what gave it some stakes of like, oh, you like literally killed your character in the first scene of this book.
No.
Okay. Like,
the character who died didn't seem to feel any kind of way about being dead. So like,
well, but he's not, like, he is dead, but he's not.
Yeah.
So like, I get why if you're 16 and you've gone through trauma, like maybe you do. I don't know. I guess maybe I just fundamentally disagree that like it's improbable that a kid who has been through this might not have a response of being somewhat regressed in their emotional responses to things, just to like.
So again, that's where I was like, he could be using humor as a coping mechanism, but the book doesn't make it seem like you're meant to think that, oh, humor is being used as a coping mechanism, and that like he maybe has some stuff he should work through. It's just like jokes. And I was like, okay, I would like something to latch onto that's a little more like, it doesn't have to be a whole serious book. I don't want the whole book to be a Hobb book. Like I'm not looking for that. But I just like, I mean, J.K. Rowling is the worst, but like I couldn't help thinking of like how much funnier it feels when the Weasleys show up and make jokes, when Harry, like you do feel how sad he is about living with the Dursleys, how sad he is about his parents being dead, how scared he is of Voldemort, and that isn't a joke. And so then like when you do have jokes from like the Weasleys or Ron being like, I mean, he is a Weasley, but you know what I mean? Like then it balances that more. So like you're really feeling feelings, but also like there's lots of good times and funny side quests, and like it's a good time. So like that was a bet, and it could be even more towards the humor, which this obviously tends to be his style. It can be even more humorous than Harry Potter tends to be, but like still have at least a few moments of like when Hela offers him the chance to go to be with his mom, like if he had like that had been a harder decision for him, like something like that, but nope.
I mean, when this book really sold me was with Odin at the very end when he's doing a Tony Robbins style presentation.
Yeah,
like,
it says TED Talks.
I love that. And like, to me, that is what I think of with Uncle Rick, is like that kind of humor. And like he delivered on that. And that's what I'm looking for. Is I like this lighthearted approach to children's fantasy literature, because like I do think that it connects with a lot of kids in a way that more like, I don't know. I'm wondering also, first of all, I read this in the height of the pandemic, so I'm wondering if I just needed some break from reality. But also, I think I'm kind of souring on YA fantasy because all of it is so self-serious and so like aged up that I think I actually kind of like getting some refreshingness from Uncle Rick, where it's like, this is clearly aimed at children. Like, this is not like, if adults like it, that is almost like incidental to the book. And I think I just kind of appreciate that.
So it's interesting because I have a kid, right, who's going to be 8 next year and is kind of an advanced reader. And so I when I read books like this, one of the things I have in my head is like, okay, is this something that I might want to give to him in the next like couple years? And reading this book, the fact that there is so much violence that is never dealt with seriously bothers me, like as a parent not wanting to give that to him.
So it's interesting because that's part of why my nieces got to read it, because Harry Potter was too intense.
So but that's the thing, is it's like if
the stakes are higher in this one.
Like if violence is too intense for kids, they don't have to read it. But I find it kind of disturbing having a children's book where there's like really like, because he kills a lot of people and laughs about it, like, and there's all this stuff that happens that's made a joke of, and I'm like, like if you're not like, he doesn't feel anything, he just like jokes about killing these like, you know what I mean, giants or whatever, and that really bothered me, honestly.
I know exactly what you're saying, because that actually stood out to me too, because in like Percy Jackson there is a lot of like battles and killing and stuff, but it's not killing because they slay the monsters and they just disappear and go back to Tartarus. No one dies, so it's not like an actual killing. It's more like like, I'm sending you back to Tartarus, and you stab them and they don't die, they just go away. So this one was really different, where like bitches get killed. Like swords up the nose, brain scrambled.
It is true. I mean, that's the way it's portrayed. At least in this book, that's the way that's the way it's portrayed.
So based on other people who've read the whole series, and maybe I'm just conflating this with Percy Jackson, but I'm pretty sure that most of the people, if not all of the people who are killed in this, it's the same situation as what's in Percy Jackson, where you don't really permanently die.
Okay. It's definitely not made clear in the book, if that is the case.
Which is fair. And I mean, like, it's sort of like, because it's hard, because I've read all 3 of these, so I don't remember exactly what happens in which book somewhat. But like, did they talk about in Valhalla how they have like the daily like battles and killing each other? Okay.
But they're already dead.
But that's different. Those people are already dead. But like the giants and stuff. Like
they can't actually be killed. Like, that's that is, if that's not clear in this book, it definitely becomes clearer in the subsequent books. So nobody who dies is
because
actually
they said like, oh yeah, his daughters are dead in the other room, we got to deal with the dad, and they're
I was
maybe
it was
understand he might be upset.
It was disturbing. Like if I think about it as something to give to a kid, like, because that is really not made clear in this.
Yeah, but they were in the real world. They're just in a different world at the time.
Yeah. I mean, like, so my memory and understanding of the series as a whole is that the people who are in Valhalla can be truly killed if they are in our world, because there's like the 7 realms or whatever. Like, if they're in this one, they can be truly killed. But none of the like giants, none of the like, oh god, what are all the different critters, all the different like beasties, magical beasties, they cannot actually be fully killed. Like, they can be killed temporarily, but they will come back. Because
throw your cat. It just doesn't work.
Until on my headphones, and I was like, absolutely not.
Until Ragnarok. That is the only time somebody can be actually truly killed, who is like a god or a giant or anyone, is at Ragnarok.
Interesting. I wish that had been like made more clear, because
it's not clear.
Because I think the way it comes off then is, I'm like, oh my god, like all of this is made a joke and he's doing these kind of horrific things, like, yikes, you know? I mean, as opposed to it being like, oh yeah, I had to do this to survive and help my friends, but I feel bad about it. You know what I mean? Like, there's no like, I don't know.
it's so interesting because like that's just like not my impression of this series at all. Like when I think back on it, you're probably not wrong, but that's just not my impression. Is that
Yeah.
does I remember it having a lot more weight, and I think I also probably just enjoy some of the representation elements in this in a middle grade. I just like it. Like I really love the idea of Sam being Muslim, but also still being able to be in Ragnarok. Like I thought that was a really interesting take on having different kinds of representation. Now, I will say when I first was reviewing this, I got very polarized responses from Muslims in my comments. I think if you are a more kind of Bethany, kind of like back when we were evangelicals, like we would not have appreciated having like a evangelical who's also somehow within this mythology. So like if you were more
with a magical hijab
who she takes off in front of Magnus to use, I was like,
so I got so I think if you're less observant, this is probably going to be a better interpolation than if you're more.
I've had Muslim friends who are really fast and loose with their hijabs as well.
Yeah, I guess I've had some friends who are like very observant about it, and so I like reading that. I was kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah, like if we're inside, like she would take it off. If we went out, she put it on, that kind of thing. So like not like super serious about it.
Yeah, so I think that's going to either work or not. But I liked the idea that he was putting that on the page for a kid who is going to like that. And I liked the idea of essentially trying to undercut the way Norse mythology is used by essentially like white racist assholes to try to like exclude people of color from like the West. So I liked that. In the future, there is Magnus's ultimate love interest is non-binary, like is a trans character. So I thought that was really cool. And I like that Sam's arranged marriage is essentially like ultimately taken very seriously in the story, and like that's something that's really protected. So I think that there's some of those elements when I think on the series as a whole. I'm like, this isn't going to work for everyone, but I do think there are kids who are going to see themselves in this, and I appreciated that he took like some risks with how he was going with that.
I feel like it's for the more secularized Muslim community. I feel like a lot of kids growing up today who've always lived in America and their parents are from America, they have a different kind of viewpoint on things. Maybe I don't know why I'm thinking I have a hot take on this. Obviously I don't, but I think that's like the audience he was maybe kind of going for.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not going to work for, I mean, like, again, Bethany, if we were evangelicals, like, we would have no, like, if we were where we were growing up, I would have no space for the idea that the gods were real at all. So, like, I think I kind of appreciate that he was like, okay, if that's your position, like, none of this is going to work for you anyway. So, like,
yeah. I mean, it isn't made super clear how that works out, but, like,
he talks more about that in the subsequent books.
Interesting. Yeah, I like a lot of the trying to have more diverse representation. I didn't always feel like it.
Bethany gave it a lower rating than I did. I was just like that to be on the record.
Yeah. I think that's true, which is rare.
Yeah. No, but it's one of the, I think that's the thing is it's like, I like a lot of what he's trying to do. It's just that like the actual way it was done didn't often hit for me very well, if that makes sense.
Well, just also, I mean, like it felt like another, like, especially as concerns Sam and her hijab and everything. I just felt like, is it your place to decide to have a character that plays fast and loose with her hijab and make it a magical hijab? I was just like, I don't feel
possibly not
great about this.
I think it's part of why the Rick Riordan presents line, I think part of why it came to be, right?
Yes. I think that's one of the, I love that he has done that. Because I mean, that's where I kind of,
I agree. As like, I'm some white lady on the internet. Obviously, I don't really have the space to have a hot take on it. And the same with Rick Riordan. Like, it's not really his place to go there. But on the other hand, I do like that he includes the character and like makes like the things that make her Muslim really special. like, not like having a huge job isn't already special, but it's like, oh, and it's also magic, and she can use it. She uses something that makes her distinctly Muslim to save everybody. So maybe that's kind of what he was doing with it. I don't know if it's his place to do that, but
I mean, like, it didn't feel like anti-Muslim. It didn't
No.
feel like
No.
Islamophobic. It made me feel a little uncomfortable. I was like, is this okay?
Yeah.
yeah.
I think
Well,
that's
and that, I guess that gets into a broader question of like, okay, I mean, and I do like that he's taken his platform and, you know, created series,
yeah.
to elevate
are
other
trying to-
voices.
Yeah.
but at the same time, there are some people who are not going to read those series because they just like him. So
Mhm.
like, this does get into a broader question of like, can non-owned voices, authors write things? Like, is there a place for people to do that, knowing that they're probably going to get some things wrong?
I mean, I think you can, but I also think this is why we talk so much about sensitivity readers now. And I doubt he had like a lot of sensitivity readers,
He usually does.
which is good. I hope. There were a few things that I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And like some of the jokes, like one thing too, and I think there are some things that I've noticed similarly I've read the first 2 Percy Jackson books, but the first Percy Jackson came out in 2005, so I think I gave it more of a pass for some of that
Yeah.
stuff, whereas this was
Yeah,
like
fair.
2015, and so I was more like, okay.
Yeah.
So like one of the things I noticed in that and in here is these like, and maybe this won't stand out to everybody, but like casually fat phobic things.
I do agree with that. I think that
Yeah. And so that bothered me here because there's like 2 instances where you have giantesses or something, and it's always the female ones where it's mentioned, and it's in first person in Magnus's head, and it's like she was wearing such and such and this size shirt, and I'm like, how would he know the size of her shirt? Like, are we just making a fat joke? And also one of them,
Yeah.
it's like a 3X t-shirt, and I'm like, that is also a size that normal human women wear. Like, why are we, I so like there's like little stuff like that I was just like, okay.
yeah. I think it's also, I don't know, it's interesting. I think I just expect fat phobia from society, so I think in general I tend to give people a pass a lot of times, unless it just like hits me the wrong way that day. So, but I don't disagree.
Yeah.
But I think it's
And I say
interesting
that as somebody
that
who 3X. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like,
I think it's interesting though that, I mean, I've only read this one Rick Riordan book. I haven't read Percy Jackson. I haven't read further in this series or anything. But I know that you like Rick Riordan and his books better than the Nevermore books. I know you like them, but not as much, I think, as Rick Riordan. And I thought Nevermore was a way. It did a lot. It felt more like that balance where I'm looking for, where it's a lot of humor and whimsy, but there are poignant moments. And like the main character is snarky and sassy in her head, but it's not always a joke. And she felt like the age that she is. And so like, I just felt like that did it better. And so I was like, I read Middle Grade that I think handles things like this in a way that's still escapist. It's not overly serious, but it still hits that. And then I like picked up, Rick Riordan, he's the guy. And I was just like, this isn't. No.
I guess Nevermore, I think, is a well-done version of what it is, but I think I don't know. It just doesn't it just doesn't work for me as well, to be totally honest. Like it feels too serious for Middle Grade. And I guess actually this is interesting because part of what I struggle with that is that I feel like it has too much seriousness for me to not take some of the implications of what is going on more into account. So like, because it's going for a more serious tone, like Jupiter, I'm like, what a fucking, like, you should be a much better guardian than you are to this kid. Do you know what I mean? Like, because it goes for those moments, I think about it more, maybe is the way to put it. And so like, it bothers me more. Now that you say that, that's interesting you bring that up, because that was the critique I gave when I first read it, was like, this is very dark, and you're highlighting those dark elements and giving them more weight, and so like it makes me think about it.
That's funny because I'm more bothered by it in something that doesn't take it seriously. Like, it bothers me more when it's like made a joke of, because I feel like it is more serious. And also maybe I was probably also a kid who liked that like the books that I would have read at this age were also books that really balanced like some humor and lightness and whimsy, sure, but also with dealing with heavier topics. And so I still prefer that.
And I think when I read Nevermore, we kind of talked about this and about how when you have middle grade and YA books, like there has to be almost some element of adults not being very good at being adults in order for children to read a book where they have agency and they're not being supervised and they can go on an adventure. Because any middle grade book where they can go on an adventure without parental supervision means they've been failed by parents, but it's also the only way to have an adventure as a kid.
Well,
so
like for instance, I read this yesterday. It's very good. Everybody said it was good, and it is very good.
Okay.
I actually think that this is a great balance between what we're talking about, because this, I think, has a lighter tone, but it does, I think, take the implications of some of the things that are happening a little bit more seriously. So I wonder, Leanna, if something like this would work a little bit better for you.
Yeah, I
but
think you would like it.
I actually think that the adults, like, I much prefer this to, for instance, Nevermore. Like, I like this much more than Nevermore because it feels like all the adults who are involved are actually trying to be good adults. Like, except for fucking
Most of them.
director Van Helsing can like eat a dick and die, but like everybody
is this Van Helsing of Dracula fame?
Of that lineage, yes.
Yeah.
But most of the adults, like Agent Magnus and like they are all trying to be good guardians or supervisors of the children in their care. And so like it doesn't bother me as much if they fail at it because they're making good faith effort to do it. Whereas Jupiter, I'm like, you're putting her in this like dangerous situation. You're just like, okay, like this is gonna be fine.
Yeah.
So.
I think
I do wonder, Leanna, if this would work a little bit better.
I think Leanna would probably like Amari. Amari is really good, I agree, and it does
really
walk
good.
that line. I think it's also fair to have representation of both things because there are a lot of kids who are in situations where their kids are neglectful or abusive, and I think but I want to see both. I want to see books that are representing good and bad versions of parents and guardians. So
yeah.
I think it's just like a easy plot device. It's just like, where are the parents? He's like, well, they don't have any. You know, la, problem solved. It's so common because it makes the writing easier. You don't have to worry about a whole other parent group and like those obstacles. You're like, oh, I don't want to deal with it. They're just dead. There you go. Problem solved. One sentence of my book.
Like where are all the mothers in Disney movies? It's
they're
like,
either evil or dead. They're evil or dead.
For the
That's
most part, it's like,
Sleeping Beauty has both parents alive. They just let her be raised by someone else.
Yeah.
They were absentee.
So she has like 5 parents.
Yeah.
Everybody raised this girl.
Yeah.
Still goes into a coma. And gets
it takes a
kissed
village
by
to raise a
strangers.
pretty princess.
Yeah. They didn't even do it that well. What are we going to do?
I do like the idea of making mythology accessible to kids. So the fact that I guess that's the thing is it's one of those things where like with the diversity, with the mythology, like I like the project of it. I like what he's trying to do. I just think it doesn't hit for me, you know?
Yeah. It's also whitewashes a lot of things like with Percy Jackson because there's a whole lot of rapiness in Greek mythology. Everybody raping everybody. And this one is just like, oh, we used to date. And I'm like, but I mean, obviously you don't want to put that in a children's book, but like
I love the casual polyamory of all of these books because like all of their parents have like
all their parents.
Yeah.
Like there's been 2 like Apollo and another man made a baby somehow. And like they're playing really fast and loose with all of these things. And I appreciate it because there's like that's one thing I do kind of like. Where's Kaz is just relaxing right now.
You're muted, Leanna.
So Kaz is asleep on the chair right there.
Yeah. Nice.
She's like, well, if I can't eat the headphones, I just might as well take a nap. He does like include a lot of different parenting situations. Like, are there dead parents? Yeah, because it's easy. But also, he has a lot of characters that have 2 moms or 2 dads, or your dad was. I don't know how the pregnancy happened when your 2 dads made a baby, but they don't really go into it because who cares? It who cares at this point?
That could pop up in the other books, in the future books in this series of like, I think it's basically an attempt to be like, there's a very strong embrace of non-gender conforming and non-binary conforming in this particular series of just like,
yeah,
I don't know,
Norse
they're gods,
mythology
like, they
had
make it
that.
work.
I mean,
Norse-
Zeus like grew a
yeah.
baby in his thigh, so
Yeah,
You know,
I mean,
like-
Athena came out of his head fully formed.
You know, so and they're all related, but they're like, oh yeah, but aren't all your parents related? And then like aren't you all related? They're like, nah, it's fine. Like things, they're like, guys, it's the Greek gods. Like, let's not take this too seriously.
There is literally a sidebar in the main Percy Jackson series to explain that he and his girlfriend are not considered actually related.
Yeah, they're like, aren't you guys at least cousins? And they're like, nah, it's cool. Like, I wouldn't date someone else with the same parent as me, but like, who cares if we have two different like Greek god parents? It's like, okay, well, I mean, they're gods. I guess genetics are a little different, but
yeah, it's magic.
You know, like at a certain point, you can only care about so many things, and you're just like, all right, okay, there you go. Not the weirdest thing happening here.
I need a heroine in which the mom drives her everywhere in her red Dodge Caravan.
Yes,
Very
and it can be magical.
Yes. If Athena like whipped out a Dodge Caravan in the main Percy Jackson series, I wouldn't have been mad about that. And I will say, I agree with this. I do prefer the Percy Jackson books over this one. I actually think that I will say, I like where the series as a whole goes, but in terms of like as an individual book, I think this is the best of the individual books. But the overall arc, I think, like Percy Jackson, definitely gets more serious.
Wait, you think this is the best of the individual books or not?
I do, yeah. Because the next books, they repeat a lot of the same structure. So like,
I love how me and Leanna are both like, well, we're not going to read.
Oh no!
I mean, like in terms of like the overall structure of the book, but like thematically, it gets heavier as it goes. So I wonder if we've
established that Mara likes the jokes and we like serious, so it stands to reason that once it gets more serious, me and Bethany like it better, and Mara likes it less.
Yeah, maybe that's totally possible. Yeah, and I like the overall arc of the series, but I would definitely agree. I personally definitely prefer Percy Jackson over this particular series. I have not
Percy Jackson gets the second 5-book series from Percy Jackson gets a little darker.
Yes,
then Trials of Apollo, they start killing characters you like who are main characters. Have you read Trials of Apollo yet?
No, I'm in the middle of Heroes of Olympus right now.
So finish Heroes of Olympus. All these characters you're really gonna love. Sorry, some of them get killed off.
You mean some of the Heroes of Olympus characters get killed off in Trials of Apollo? I don't know if I'm okay with that.
One of them does, and you're just. I'm not okay. I haven't finished the Trials of Apollo series because I'm still not okay with it. And it wasn't like, oh, he gets revived. He's like, no, dead, like fucking dead. Elysian Fields, dead. And you're just like,
wow. Well, I mean, I guess to be fair, in the first Percy Jackson series, one of the characters dies. In the third book, she's not a main character, but she's we see her come back up again. Because in Percy Jackson, like they can get killed and like they're left in Hades. So like it is possible for you to see them again, because if you go to the underworld, like they come back up as characters sometimes, but they are dead.
Yeah. Well, this character is dead and went to the Elysian Fields, so you don't get to go visit. So it was a heroic death. I know. I'm sorry. Did I know.
I appreciate you warning me, because like this was like when I read the 5th Harry Potter book. After that, I had to read the endings of the book of book 6 and 7, because I was like, you're not going to do this to me again. Like, this destroyed me.
Well, you could do the first 2 books of this. I think it was in book 3 of Trials, where I'm just like,
so Mara is the rare person that would have appreciated that drive-by spoiler shout out for Harry Potter.
I would have been like, oh my god,
oh, thanks for warning me.
I love spoilers. Please warn me. I will still want to read it. I don't care if I know what's going to happen. It makes me less anxious. Like, please tell me things.
I spoiled myself for the Song of Ice and Fire series because I was Googling something unrelated to that spoiler and stumbled upon that spoiler. But then I managed to forget entirely about it. it before that came up, and then I was like, wait, oh god, and I knew that this. Oh no.
Yeah, Trials of Apollo is a different vibe. I mean, Percy makes like a cameo in it. It's not really a Percy Jackson, so I'm not counting it as a Percy Jackson series. It's kind of its own thing. But I mean, like Annabeth and Percy and some of the Heroes of Olympus characters make cameos, and I think more of the Heroes of Olympus characters are in Apollo rather than the Percy Jackson characters.
Okay, interesting.
So like, I think Leo shows up, and yeah, Leo's definitely in it quite a bit.
Frank and okay. Interesting here, which is somebody else who preferred the other books in the series more than this one. This one was too long and slow. So I think it just depends on what you do and don't like.
Although even
books.
you said that this was too long.
Oh yeah, I agree. This was too long. Yeah. If it hadn't genuinely,
I would say like as someone mentioned in the comments that like it's a 15-hour audiobook, and I was like, yeah, for a middle grade book when you're like 15 hours.
Really long. It is long. It is. Yeah. I don't think the Percy Jackson books are quite that long.
No.
The later ones are kind of long though, but the original series
the Heroes
aren't that
of Olympus. Yeah, the original series are not. The Heroes of Olympus, they're longer. Yeah, I think for me the humor does go a long way because anything, especially because I was reading this during the pandemic, I was just like, oh, thank God. This is making me laugh. I appreciate this.
I get that.
It is a good distraction book. Yeah,
I do. Well, and I think especially when a book hits you at the right minute, it can just have even more of like a positive effect for you. So I get that.
See, I read first law to cheer up, so this is just not who I am.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
So watch out. Sorry about that. I think it's in book 3 because I haven't read book 4 and 5 because I was so upset about book 3.
I appreciate that warning because, like,
you know what? I'll tell you. Do you want to know which character gets off? Because I'll tell you off of this because I don't want to spoil it for everybody.
Yeah, put it in the private chat because I don't want to ruin it for other people, but I want to know.
Okay, I'm doing it.
But yeah, oh, wow. Okay, yeah, I appreciate you warning me, Amanda, and I'm gonna be sitting with that for a while. Like,
I just put it in the private. Put it in the private
Oh!
and react. I know. I know.
God. Oh my God.
Hold on. And another thing.
Dead? What?
So that's like a really sorry, we're just now we're just reacting to things no one can see.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Okay, so wow. I'm very glad I know that because I'm going to need time to be ready for that because that is
right?
Outrageous. Uncle Rick. Also,
Heather, so it's Fable Bands. So like
do you have a link
story
or an affiliate?
I mean, I think I don't, but like I should get one. I buy their stuff all the time. I should just like be like, hey, you want to give me an affiliate code? But they're great. Yeah, Fable Bands. It's just it's just fablebands.com. And they have a ton of great bookish headbands.
Yes. So
I've never actually read any Tolstoy.
Leanna and Bethany, if you guys
I want to do it for Drunk Classics. You should do it with me. Let's get drunk and read Tolstoy.
Good time.
I'm more interested in reading because I also have never read Dostoevsky. I'm more curious about Dostoevsky.
Oh. The Brothers Karamazov is great. And very readable.
I read Crime and Punishment in high school.
I was gonna say like the one that's Brothers Karamazov I'm also interested in, but like Crime and Punishment is like the one that I'm like,
Yeah, I liked it in high school. It's been a long time. It was very violent. I wasn't expecting it to be so violent.
I mean, it is called Crime and Punishment. I mean, right there in the title.
It's true.
You know, I think I would rather read Dostoevsky because now that I'm remembering things, like I hate Anna Karenina. Like with a passion. I hate it so much, and that's Tolstoy, so maybe I shouldn't fuck with
I've
Tolstoy.
also seen multiple adaptations of War and Peace. So like I know the story of War and Peace because I've seen it adapted a couple of times. So like I know what happens. It's a lot. I don't know if I can sit through all of that as a book from a Russian author. Like I don't know if I can do it. On the topic of
making me laugh, I will say Tolstoy does make me laugh in War and Peace, so maybe that's also part of why I like it. I just want to laugh. That's all I want in this world is just to feel something positive and joyful.
I just want to feel something.
Yeah, just feel something other than rage at our dying planet filled with horrible people.
I mean, yeah. It's interesting though, because like humor is so subjective that it's like what you find funny. Because like there are things that I find funny in this, but there's also stuff that I'm like, this is dumb. Like my kids would think this is funny, but I don't.
Being a massive Shakespeare stan, I don't chicken or the egg. Like, do I feel this way because I've been like exposed myself to so much Shakespeare? That's how he thinks about it, or am I drawn to Shakespeare because that's what he does? But the fact that his comedies are like fairly different from dramas, it's just a point of like the matter of where you've ended it makes it a happy story rather than ending it on like a tragic moment, because like his tragedies have a lot of comedy and his comedies have a lot of tragedy. And so I just find that like, you know, the dark shadows make the bright light brighter, you know, the darkness makes the funny funnier. And so that's like another reason why like the jokes in Magnus Chase, like it's not like some I thought were dumb, but like overall I was like, this is a better version of like snark for a young audience than Aurora Rising or other books like that. I just feel like there's just too much of that, and I can't find it funny when it's just that. So if there was moments of like, oh, this is kind of sad and serious, then the joke that comes on the heels of that to like pick you up again, I would appreciate it and find it amusing, because I'd be like, oh, what a relief, as opposed to like, and it's jokes that I'm just like tired of it.
Yeah, I hear you.
That's fair. I think it just makes I will say that Tony Robbins TED Talk presentation at the end, like honestly, like that just is my humor, and so like that just
you can
I paused.
Yeah. Also, I mean,
I guess to laugh for like 5 minutes about.
I guess I feel like humor too. Like humor to me is funnier if it's unexpected. So like that's the thing. If it's constantly jokes and I'm constantly expecting whatever you're gonna say, there's gonna be a punchline, and so I'm already like as opposed to like when there's like a conversation going on and it doesn't have to be a dramatic or serious or tragic conversation, but just a conversation that's, that's serious in tone. And then someone like, there's like a joke in there. You're like, oh, wait, that was funny. As opposed to just being like, quip, 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 quip.
I think a lot of it's also just like using a joke to pause so someone can explain what's going on a bit, because he is trying to write it for, kids, and mythology is a whole twisted hodgepodge of stuff. So I think like the fart elf scene, which I like fart jokes. There you go. I am an adult woman.
I'm also a 12-year-old boy in my
but
heart.
He's like, you're a fart elf, and then they had to take the time to like tell what like he actually was and how it's like a dwarf and stuff. So like I think it's like a pause, like, oh, I made a joke, let's explain. So maybe it's like a writing device.
Yeah, like the decapitated floating head, like that is like for me. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I think it's such a weird thing to actually exist in mythology, and the fact that he just like highlights that it's weird and funny that this is a thing. For me, that works.
Yeah, and they're calling him Capo, which is like the mob thing too. So it's just like, what?
Yeah.
This seems like the wrong area. Okay, so I kept reading it. I was like, Capo, and I was like, oh, okay. I get it. But anyway.
But yeah, it's subjective. For sure. Yeah. Leanna, have you read Children of Time before? I think you might like it.
I want to read that.
Is that by Adrian Tchaikovsky?
But...
Yeah, the only Adrian Tchaikovsky I've read, and it's the Blades and Bodice Rippers book club book for January, is Guns of the Dawn. Yes. But I want to read more from him because I really liked that.
I think that one's about spiders.
Yeah, it's like alien spiders,
space spiders. I got a book. I got it from my friend, but I should read it. I haven't.
It does have space spiders. I was
okay, but stand up isn't a novel telling me a story about characters that I'm meant to care about. Like that's it's different.
I don't. Well,
if a book is too much like a stand up routine, then I'm like, this isn't a book, and this is a stand up routine, and for stand up, it's not funny enough. So I don't like it.
I also don't actually like that much stand up comedy.
Oh, I love stand-up comedy.
Like I like some
also,
of it, but I like a very particular kind.
My favorite comedians tend to do very gallows humor even in a stand-up routine. So like I don't like fart joke comedians. I like Trevor Noah is one of my favorite stand-up comedians because he talks about like living during apartheid and being half black and half white, which is like that is not funny, but like he brings so much, needed levity and some gallows humor to that, and that's why I think I like it so much.
That's what I like too. That's the kind of stand-up I do like. Most of it, I'm like,
Or that's when I really like comedians that tend to do a lot of like political humor or current events humor, because again, it's like a very serious situation, and bringing some like snark to the fact that, oh God, the government is screwing us, but jokes, like it's like. Yeah, it's very Abercrombie.
I don't tend to like stand up that's like, making fun of like your wife or whatever. Like that version of stand up comedy is not so much for me. But yeah, I grew up watching Comedy Central. I would watch those comedy specials constantly. So I do really like. Yeah, maybe that also is informing what I find funny is some of that. But like, I don't know. I think about a routine I saw from this woman who was she was basically like. Well, trigger warning for sexual assault. But she was basically making fun of or like making light of the fact that like women are constantly on the alert because we might be assaulted on our way, just like living our life. So her whole it was a bit about like, here's your rape of like, we're all living in this horrible game show where we're constantly wondering like, is this my rape? Is this when it happens? I just dropped my keys on the ground. Here's your rape. So like that's not going to work for everyone, but for me I find that funny because it's like punching up and like not making a joke about assault, but making a joke about
assault isn't, we live in I was gonna say assault isn't the joke, like
the people who are assaulted are not the joke. The joke is how horrifying is it that we live in a world where like half the population just accepts that this is the life that they're living, where they're constantly looking over their shoulder.
No, I mean, like I thought it was like, I'm really sad that Jim Jeffries' show got canceled, because I thought he was constantly delivering that very like gallows humor about what's currently going on in a very kind of like, we're doomed, haha, may as well laugh so that we don't cry kind of way. And like when he had Brad Pitt on as like the depressed weatherman who was like, everywhere is on fire and we are all going to die. I was like, yes, this is my humor.
I almost worked on that show back in the day. I'm still bummed I didn't get on it. Anyway.
An alternative life.
Yeah.
Well,
next month.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't have it yet.
Bethany's channel.
Yeah.
Tell us about it, Bethany. What's it about?
So this is from what I understand, queer fantasy romance set in an alternate Edwardian England.
Okay.
So something
I've heard good things about that author. I've heard C.L. Polk is great. So
I've heard it's good. And C.L. Polk is a queer Black author. So
nice.
Yeah. I've been wanting to read this for a while. I've heard really great things about it. And and I also I've had this since 2019 when I met them at Goodreads. So we're gonna read it now.
Yeah.
Speaking of like queer Edwardianness, this has nothing to do with that book, but I just want to like tap the resource that is these ladies that read more than I do and get arcs of things. So I'm curious about this because I think I might like it, but also if you've read it, you can tell me if it's crap. A Marvelous Light by Freya.
Oh, it's so good.
Have it.
It's so good. I read it. Yeah.
Okay, because I
was just thinking about it.
I marked that as like want to read, put it on my wish list because I was like, I'm fairly confident this is up my alley. But then
what is it? What's it about?
Okay, so it's alternate Edwardian London, and it's a slow burn gay romance in a world with magic, but they're trying to.
Well, the like tagline is like Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell meets Red, White, and Royal Blue.
Yeah, kinda. I mean, they're trying to
kind of like a Grumpy Sunshine. It's like a Grumpy Sunshine.
I do love a Grumpy Sunshine.
He's like a himbo, and the other guy's like an introverted, like bookish nerd.
I do like a good himbo though.
I do love a himbo.
I love a himbo.
Yeah, and like
I love
one of them is getting introduced to the world of magic that he didn't know existed. They're trying to solve a murder. And
Bethany, why did you pick this for December?
because I had an arc.
You picked the other one.
I had to read it. I read it last month.
You know what? I'm reading this month, Leanna. Do you want to buddy read it? I'm reading it in December.
Oh, you said this month. I was like, November. I was like, we're in the middle of November. I have so many books I need to finish.
When am I? Like ever since the pandemic, I'm like, when am I? I don't know what day it is.
Yeah.
Where am I? When am I?
Also, it's a slow burn, but it does get very steamy eventually.
Okay.
And there's good use of magic in a steamy scene.
Magic
I'm always
scene?
I was like excited, and then oh no, you said
magic sex is
I'm
always
more excited.
yeah.
good use of
opposite
magic in a
reaction.
steamy scene.
Our reactions just went.
I also and I like that you did this as your illustration of that feeling. Use of magic in a steamy scene.
My boner for this book will hit upon that.
Yeah,
revelation.
your interest boner died.
I mean,
Because
it's
of that, like that pitch of like Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell meets Red, White, and Royal Blue. I'm obviously on the Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell excitement side.
I mean, I think you still might like it. I mean, there's a couple of steamier scenes later in the book, but also I think they do a really good job of really developing their relationship, and it's not just like steamy to be like it's also a well developed relationship that they build. So I think
I tend to like that better.
it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it. I'm reading in December. Sneak peek, everybody.
I also really like the cover. It's a very nice cover.
It's
It is a
very
very
pretty
nice
cover.
cover.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard about that one at all, so that's a full-throated endorsement.
It's kind of like there's like a ministry of magic, and they're starting to solve a murder,
Harry
and one
Potter.
guy's just like, "Wait a minute, I'm not supposed to be here," and then he's like, "Well, you're here now," and then they
There's
got
a murder
like
mystery?
Yeah.
murder mystery.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, we got romance,
seriously
murder
has, like,
mystery, and
all-
speculative elements.
If
This is
there's a
my
book
gotta
that
go.
all of us are
I
gonna
know.
like, this might be it.
Okay, well,
You know
now
what? We
I'm
can do
more
a double
intrigued.
feature. I'm down to do a double feature if you guys want to read 2 books.
Well, actually, speaking of timing,
I mean, I already read it. So.
this is the last, like our last Saturday is Christmas in
Oh yeah, we gotta pick a day.
December, so
Right.
we have to figure out a new day. So I don't know if we've already figured that out or we just need to post that later. But
We could do the 18th. I mean, that's kind of 4 weeks from now.
I can't because my family's in
Oh,
town. We're doing our
okay.
Christmas the weekend before. So I don't know if we could do like the 26th and make it a Sunday or what you guys have going on, but
I could do that. I don't know about everybody else.
I could do the 26th. I mean, I'm native to where I live, so I don't go nowhere.
You're native to where you live.
I
Yeah.
mean, I never moved. I was born and raised in Los Angeles. Like my family's here. Like I don't go nowhere.
We can
Yeah.
do Boxing Day.
Yeah.
A Boxing Day
Boxing
celebration.
Day.
That'd be so fun. We could all have cocoa.
Oh,
But
yeah,
I do endorse the idea of a double feature if we wanted to read a Marvelous
I'm okay with that. I've got room.
Because also isn't Witchmark pretty short?
Yeah, it is.
Not
It's
too
not
long.
long.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
bad.
down.
A little over
Wait,
300
is
pages.
Witchmark you said it's a queer romance, but is it FF or MM or some
I-
other combination thereof?
I don't remember. I just know it.
We have LGBTQ romance.
In the
December.
Edwardian
We need
era
to
double
find-
feature.
Yeah,
I think it's also MM. Yeah, we could.
Well,
do
it might be a
double
good
feature. We put
opportunity
together.
too, like if we read both
Oh,
of them
compare,
to kind of
contrast.
compare
Oh,
contrast.
yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do it.
I like
Guys.
that. Okay.
Christmas double feature.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, especially as we're going to a less frequent schedule next year, so we can kind of end in 2020 on a
So basically,
can
we're
double.
doing like a Mardi Gras pre-Lent where we're gonna like
Yeah.
just feast on books before we go into this dry spell.
Okay.
Somebody
Well,
said
I'm
somebody said this one's MM too. So
Okay. Well,
Okay,
you know what?
cool.
I'm down. Why not?
Yeah.
Double up.
I'm gonna put it in my cart, and
So I have one of them. I don't
awesome.
have Witchmark.
yeah,
yet, but
and
you know
I
what?
already
We're gonna
read
double
one,
feature.
so
yeah,
Fun.
Bethany's ahead of the game.
ahead of the game.
I was gonna read this one. I was gonna read both of them anyways. Let's do a double feature. That'd be
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. When did it come out? It came out.
This
it
month.
just came
Came
out.
out,
Just
Okay.
came
yeah.
out.
I read it last
Cool.
month because they sent me an ARC like a couple months back.
Yeah, me too. And I still haven't read it. I suck at reading arcs early. I'll post about it. I just suck at reading them early.
We'll see.
Really
Now
bad
we're
at it.
highlighting it on the book club. It's fine.
Exactly.
Yay.
I guess that's a question. Like, how many tour books have we done for this book club?
Probably a bunch.
Yeah,
I am a lover of Tor.
I am too. They're great.
Yeah.
They're one of my favorite publicity departments to work with, actually.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Fun fact. Sorry, we're kind of
Yeah.
running out of steam, I feel.
Yeah.
Well,
So Boxing Day double feature.
Boxing
Boxing
Day
Day double feature on Bethany's channel.
Yes.
We will read Witchmark by C.L. Polk and A Marvelous Light by
Freya
someone.
Marsky.
By Rhea Marsky.
Freya.
With cocoa. I'm having cocoa.
Freya.
I think we should all have cocoa. Well,
Yeah, we can be
get
in
a
there
vegan
too.
cocoa for Leanna.
Can I have black coffee that looks like cocoa?
Sure.
Yes. Put
How
marshmallows in it though.
You just tell us it's cocoa and drink what you want.
Yeah.
Just
I get like that cocoa. You have that dark chocolate, like really bitter cocoa thing you liked, didn't you? Am I just imagining this? I thought you had like a cocoa you liked. It was like chocolatey, but it was like really dark.
I think so too. You could put it in the coffee.
I mean, I have raw cacao that I sometimes make into hot cocoa.
Yeah, that. I remember you had this really dark chocolatey stuff. Am I crazy? Did I invent like an alternate reality for you? But
No,
I think I remember you doing this.
I mean, I
Right.
added like cacao
Right.
to my matcha one time, and I was like, "This is dirt," and it's
I
disgusting.
remember that also.
remember that.
Yeah.
So I'm no
It's not
longer
funny.
living the drinking grass everyday life. I have delicious black coffee every day now.
Well, maybe you could get just like a s'more time or something from Bones that kind of has like a chocolatey kind of vibe.
Can I just have one of my Christmas coffees, like the
Sure.
peppermint mocha
Right,
coffee?
you know what? I don't know why I'm trying to
Do
make
it.
you
We're,
drink. You can drink what you want.
yeah.
Actually,
Well,
I was considering buying because Bones Coffee now released cocoa, and like
I
the
saw
original one they
that.
released has marshmallows already in it, so I can't have that. But the Christmas one is peppermint mocha, and it doesn't have any marshmallows in it, but they sold out immediately. So I was like, wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
Oh, they might restock, maybe.
Do I need a whole canister of cocoa to drink at once?
Probably.
Well, they also have some. Trader Joe's has some exciting cocoa-related items right now that are seasonal. So,
I actually just went to Trader Joe's this morning because my brother and I. Well, okay, my brother went vegan, and now my brother and what? Oh, that was like immediately when I said he went vegan. There was objections.
No,
the dog
the
is
mail's
voicing
here.
his support.
Oh, that dog is barking.
He's
It's all
really
good.
upset about the vegan thing. I'm convinced.
He
But
hates
anyway,
the
so
mailman. He and the mailman like have this feud. Like every time the mailman's here, he'll just pace in front of the door, like muttering them to himself, like, "Oh, that bastard's here," and then he'll bark and then like feel good about himself. Like he has like a whole whole world with the mailman. Yes, it's Batman, my dog.
but anyway,
I
so
had
my
like this
brother and I-
premonition it was gonna happen. Like before this started, I'm like, my dog's gonna bark. I know he is. I just know he is. Like I felt it and then it happened. I manifested it. But anyways, go ahead, Leanna.
so my brother and I are cooking vegan Thanksgiving dinner for the family, and we're doing it at my place. So then I was like, I need to grocery shop for all of the things before, crunch time.
Yeah.
And so yesterday I put in a bunch of grocery delivery orders, and every place that I ordered groceries from, because I like stacked it so that like I ordered from one place, and if they're out of anything, then the next order I'll add it to that order, so that if they're out of anything, and everywhere I ordered from did not have fresh sage anymore. So I went this morning to Trader Joe's right when they opened, and they had just restocked everything because 'tis the season. And I got like a bunch of sage just in case.
I got
Yay.
it to Trader Joe's right when it opened this morning to get their cornbread stuffing
Ooh.
because it is gluten-free and delicious. And yeah, that is going to be a part of my.
I actually got
Thanksgiving
cornbread mix from Sprouts yesterday that is gluten-free, so I didn't have to get it from Trader Joe's.
I am a Trader Joe's junkie. I followed the Trader Joe's Instagram or list.
I follow the
Instagram
Trader
account.
Joe's vegan Instagram, so they show all the new things that Trader Joe's has that are like either accidentally vegan or like intentionally vegan. So today, for the first time, I saw that they actually had the vegan feta in brine, and I wanted to get for Thanksgiving for like Horses Duvers, the vegan version of like boars and cheese, but they didn't have that.
No,
Alas,
can't have it all.
Why not?
I know. Well, I'm starting.
My mom always joked when I was a kid that my favorite Queen song was "I Want It All,"
and I want it now. Yeah, I've been stocking them because they have like these cookie mixes that they've released at Christmas, and they're delicious, and I love giving them out as like,
Oh yeah.
Why do
like,
Trader Joe's has like
thankfully,
so
give somebody
many?
something small.
They also
Yeah,
have so many
that's cool.
affordable like foodie gifts, like all those little like fancy olive oils in different flavors, or like the spice sets, or like last year I got the.
Chocolates.
They have a bunch of like olive wood things. So last
I
year I
got
got
one
the
of those
set and
too.
the spoons.
Oh,
Yeah.
I pick this up every year because it's delicious.
I like they have those little like cocktail chocolates. They're like cocktail filled. Have you tried these? They're like little truffles.
No.
Yeah, they're really good, and they're like they're flavored like different.
Oh, I haven't seen the different flavor, but have you had just the straight up chocolate truffles that they have, like in the little red
Yeah.
box?
Oh, those are really good too. Yeah.
so
No, but
good.
around the holidays they do one. It's almost made like an advent calendar where they each have like the little door that opens,
How cute.
but they're like little liqueur flavored chocolate.
I'm deeply
Oh,
upset that so the chocolate covered, dark chocolate covered liqueur cherries, those are vegan because it's dark chocolate. But my favorite like boozy candy is brandy beans, but they don't make the brandy beans with dark chocolate. They make them with milk chocolate, so I cannot have them. And I'm like, damn you.
Well, this is dark chocolate. This little taste of caramel thing. I'm trying to
But
think.
caramel definitely does not.
Yeah.
Vegan.
Is it not?
It's got
Caramel's usually
butter,
butter and
usually
sugar.
butter and sugar.
Oh,
Yeah.
see, I don't know how these things were made, so
I've made caramel
vegetarian.
before. So
I've never tried to make.
I mean,
caramel
there are
butter.
like vegan alternative caramels, but like unless it's like intentionally vegan, if something has caramel in it, it's almost a guarantee that it's not vegan.
The more you know.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, this is our plug for you to go to your local Trader Joe's this holiday season.
Or anytime, any day.
Anytime,
it's the best place to
anytime it is.
And we will see you guys back on Boxing Day on Bethany's channel to talk about Witchmark by C.L. Polk and Marvelous Light by
Yay.
Hey, it links to this month because Freya is her first name. It's like
Yay.
Yeah, there you go.
Look at us,
and
guys.
join us as we continue to try to find a book that all of us like.
I think a Marvelous Light will be the
maybe.
Every month we like, please.
I am quite hopeful about Guns of the Dawn in January. I will be very surprised if you guys don't like it.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Like, what if we all liked both of them?
Well, then we
could have like a great
miracle.
streak of like Marvelous Light and Witchmark and Guns of the Dawn, just a streak of just great.
That would be great.
Loving it.
Great. Yeah.
We're putting that energy out into the universe.
Yeah.
Like, let's manifest this.
Let's do it.
Well, thank you, ladies, for joining me. Thanks everyone for watching, and we will see you guys after Christmas on Bethany's channel.
Yay.
Bye.